Avast ye timbers, Virgil, and welcome to the Avram Davidson
They're
universe.
avasted.
They're avasted. Look out.
Already avasted. Pre-avasted timbers.
Pre-avasted. I'm
That's how I
Bob
always
from,
get my timbers.
as one should have them. I'm Bob from Wheel of Genre. Who are you, Virgil?
I'm Virgil from Literally Books. And
That's
we're here
damn-
together to talk Avram.
That's right. That's right. We're talking Avram Davidson. We're doing our first, at least together, our first Dr. Eszterhazy story. I'm really excited to read about Dr. Eszterhazy. And Virgil, I believe you decided to do this because of occult-detective. Right?
Occult-detective October is a thing that's going on in the booktube community in October. And we thought, oh, that would be really cool. We knew that Avram was a big mystery writer. So we had talked to Seth, and he had given a suggestion for this particular Dr. Eszterhazy story. I hope I said that right. The case of the mother-in-law of Pearl, which I love the little like play on words there. I just absolutely love that.
It's a great story. We'll come back to the play on words there, so don't spoil anything. But this is so Dr. Eszterhazy. In this story, at least, his best detective feature, it seems, is that he is a great listener. And it's a great listener. He gets involved in this case. He wants to have a button replaced. He goes into the shop, and what would you call it? The tailor says, oh, we need to find mother-in-law of Pearl. We don't have Pearl, but we need to find mother-in-law of Pearl. He says, what on earth is that? And then hijinks ensue to the degree that they go on a little adventure. They end up at a castle, and they're trying to find an Undine or a Lorelei.
Yeah, that's it. And I love this so much because it's like, it's almost like these like little anecdotes which lead to, it's like, oh, what's that? What's this? And then, okay. And then where does that come from? Oh, it comes from here. And it's like these like little stories that sort of like perpetuate this larger narrative in a sense. And I like that you're kind of like, how did we get here? Like, didn't you just go in to get a button replaced? And all of a sudden now I think we're in Scotland. Is that right? I get the impression that this is like Scotland.
He's wearing tartan. Yes, I think so.
Yes. So, and it's like, what happened? And the other thing mentioned too is that these, I don't know about the entire collection, but there's a sense with with the Dr. Eszterhazy stories that there's like these are like somewhat like entering into the supernatural, that they're associated with the supernatural. And I don't know about all of them, and I don't want to give anything away about the type of story that this is, like as a broader occult detective type story, I guess. But I don't know if all the stories like this are in this vein, or if some are one way or another. That seems such a vague thing. I guess that what we really, I said that and I thought, wow, that's almost like saying nothing. And it was. So I'll say this instead. There's obviously choices to make with a story like this. Is the occult real or not? Right. So it's interesting to see how the story plays out and to see what Avram does with it.
I think so too. Like you were saying, how it moves by anecdote, it is like, I think this could be real. Someone else suggests something else. I think this could be the case. So as we're searching for whatever is leaving behind these pearls, or where these things come from, there is rumor after rumor. And so one is, oh, it's a Lorelei. This isn't a spoiler, but if you've ever seen season 1, episode 20 of the original Pokemon series, the the Ghost of Maiden's Peak.
Pokemon myth right in here.
Oh yes, it's important.
I love it. No,
so the Ghost of Maiden's Peak. If you know that episode, that is what a Lorelei is. A Lorelei is this a German myth about a woman who's waiting for the sailor to come back, and the sailor never comes back, and she dies, becomes a spirit, and then haunts people. And it's actually there's a rock on the Rhine River called Lorelei Rock. And so the Lorelei and the rock, who knows which ones comes first? I'm sure a historian does, but I don't know.
The Lorelei or the rock.
The Lorelei or the rock, a chicken or the egg. But it is a huge, huge tradition. Many people have written poems about it, and Heinrich Heine wrote a famous poem that has now been turned into music 25 times by 25 different composers. So Yes, and it's like anecdote of a Lorelei, and someone says, no, it's actually maybe a homunculus. No, maybe it's an undine. We learn all of these, like you said, is it a cult or not? We learn these supernatural theories, and we're getting closer to a truth that may or may not be supernatural because of a tradition of storytelling and taking someone's story and running off with it because of rumors.
Yeah, yeah, and and I'm really glad that the last thing that we talked about was an adventures in unhistory, because I really see a big similarity between that bit of nonfiction writing about myth and this fiction that discusses myth, and it seems like really similar work. Like there's all these sort of related myths that seem to influence or inform each other, and they're sometimes contradictory. Then it's like somebody will say, "Oh, it's a this." It's like, well, no, maybe it's a that. And then it's like, but then somebody's like, "Well, it's both." But it's like, well, wait, I don't know if both works. And then it's like, I don't know. And I love how uncertain it is, that we're not sure what the rules aren't. The rules don't seem nailed down. The myth doesn't seem nailed down. Even with one person, you're not sure. Like everyone seems to have their own idea as to what it is. And any one of those, or maybe all of those seem to be true or something, and I kind of like that. Like the people of the area that this story takes place, the people were in this area of the Undine or the Lorelei seem to have different philosophies about what it's here for and what it wants to do.
I think you're leading us into spoiler territory, Virgil.
This is perfect. Spoiler territory.
Let's dive in. Fair enough. I think one of my favorite scenes is when someone else contradicts another person of what they've just been saying. When he goes to the tailor, when Eszterhazy goes to the tailor to get the button, the guy who owns it is telling him all of this. Like, okay, this is where we get the pearl, the mother-in-law of pearl. This is where it comes from. This is the legend. Then one of the shopkeepers just like swivels over on a ladder. It's like, no, hey, sir, that is not correct. It's actually called a lurlie. And he tells this.
Right. He's like, it's more correctly pronounced. You're right. He like corrects the other guy.
And then we just never hear from this other guy again. It's just like, who cares?
He feels so ashamed by his yeah. He's like, I thought I was right.
I thought I was right. It's this guy on a ladder who I pay money to. So this guy tells him, like, that ladder guy, it's a lurlie. And then he tells him, I'll tell you about the lurlie. So then after he learns about the lurlie, he goes, he moves on to, I think it might be Scotland. Maybe I can't even tell.
Or it's fictionalized. I know all I can say is that somebody's wearing a kilt. And I know that maybe is that the definitive way to decide if something is Scottish or not, but
well, I think he's Trans-Balkanian, because this is set in, Transbalkania, but his name is Prince Roldrando, and he's wearing a kilt, like you said. And they're talking. So anyway, Eszterhazy goes to this castle. This is where he's going to find this lurlie, this Lorelei, and then it twists again, and they say, no, it's probably not a Lorelei. It's probably an undine or an undine. And this guy starts telling him all of these stories, and Eszterhazy's like, wow, what a castle you have. It looks like Count Dracula's castle, or the castle Frankenstein jumped out of. And he says, pah, as for Vlad Dracula, he was Romanian. Need more be said? And for Frankenstein, one hears well of him. They are, after all, barons. After all, anybody can be made a baron, but a prince. So he's royal.
Yeah, and I love that, like, really, like all these little anecdotes that make up the story, and it's just, I don't know, it makes it feel so real. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I think it makes it feel very well. So I wanted to ask you, because you have done some research about, it seems, an undine or an undine. So this supernatural thing that feels real, or at least, well, we'll spoil it now. We get to an answer, but we aren't sure if undines are real or not for a long time. But what did you find out about undines?
An undine is like this supernatural creature that's associated with the element of water. And then there's supposed to be 4 of them: the undine, the gnome, the sylph, and salamander, each corresponding to like one of the 4 elements. And there's a whole idea about that. This all comes from Paracelsus. I hope I said that right. I'm gonna stop saying that because I know I'm gonna say it wrong.
Paracelsus, I think.
Paracelsus. No, just that's that's the spooky degree. But those are think about that, Paris. It's okay. These are the jokes. Right, they don't always land. Sometimes they kind of swoop down real close, so they skirt right back off.
It's the Daedalus and Icarus of jokes, really getting a little too...
Right, you're like, is this
perfect.
Air, is this joke going to be funny or not? Oh, got kind of close, and then it whipped. There it goes. Anyhow, sorry. So this whole idea about these these are sort of like invisible human-shaped spirits that inhabit almost like another dimension or something that we can't see, each in corresponding to the different elements. There's a whole idea there. And there's some mention of Paracelsus having visited the area at some point, I believe, and having that maybe he had created the monkey in the bottle or something. There's like this whole idea with this monkey. And again, this goes into an anecdote, and you're kind of like, it's like this history, and then, oh yeah, then there's this, it's like almost like a joke for them, but referencing that maybe, and then Dr. Eszterhazy is thinking, was this like a homunculus that he had made or something? Is there some sort of thing that some sort of like a disagreement or something that had happened, and this is sort of like the fallout from that has sort of been living here? And of course, our Prince Rodandro is the prince of this area is concerned because he believes that this he's talking about the undine myth, or an undine myth with marriage, and how they sort of disguise themselves as being human for this marriage, but they're really interested in the soul of the person they marry because they don't have a soul themselves, and that's how they acquire a soul, is through marriage. And so he thinks that the undine's after him, and then there's a whole thing with the buckwheat crop, of course. And again, I love all these disparate, like, little threads that get pulled in. It's so great.
Well, how else are you going to make vodka if you don't have enough buckwheat?
Right. There's a long talk about vodka and how important it is.
Yes, nature's water. I in my notes, I wasn't paying close enough attention to what I was writing, and I just wrote, shout out to Christ from Liminal Spaces, but I meant to write Chris from Liminal Spaces. So Chris, this is for you.
I don't even know what that means. I love it.
You're not paying attention. So Paracelsus, as Virgil, you were mentioning, was really interesting how he came up with these theories, and he was he came up with these theories about elements, and he was also an alchemist trying to produce these things. So when he is maybe referenced as someone who was studying at this place, or at least they call him, what do they call him? Old Leo or something like that.
Yeah, they had like kind of a derogatory term for him. That's right.
Just the old, they keep calling him the gaffer, I think, but
oh, that's right.
He's making these things, but these are really interesting creatures, and this is why I think it's liminal. They're considered liminal beings because sometimes they appear as just elements, and sometimes they appear as somewhat human-like creatures. So when you see like a sylph, which is the air, sometimes it will appear as just air moving around, and sometimes it takes on the form of a fairy. It looks almost human. So same with an undine. The word actually comes from Latin, which just means little wave, So this idea of a little wave becoming a person, or at least person-like thing. So they're elementals that have big power.
Right.
And this undine that we think is an undine also is a larger classification, which includes mermaids and other things like that. So this is maybe a mermaid. We find out that this really exists because we meet the midwife, and the midwife has a story about where this woman came from. She's not that old now, but her mother has passed away, and they decide, okay, we have to go and find this person. There's evidence of her. She kept it all secret for a long time. She had a fishtail, and so she's kept it secret, but now she's just disappeared, and they have to get in a boat and go and find her and make sure she's okay. It becomes very touching because this child who has tried to pretend something that she's not, pretend who she's not for many years, now is missing. And now Dr. Eszterhazy and the midwife have to go and find her in a boat. So aside, rumor suddenly becomes a real mystery to find a missing person.
Yeah. And I like how all these disparate elements are all connected because it all goes back to the idea that the mother-in-law of Pearl comes from these shells that are freshwater mussels
Hmm.
that people don't really eat, but that lurlies eat,
Yeah.
right? And that this is where, and then there's a whole discussion about Dr. Eszterhazy's button. Is like, well, we can't put, this isn't real mother of Pearl. This is mother-in-law of Pearl. We can't just, we don't get this. He's like, if you had come to me a few months ago, I would have said, well, we can't do it. We have to do something else. It's kind of like it's like the discount version of Mother of Pearl, right? It's the cheap version, but like we stopped getting it, and it wasn't much cheaper anymore because other stuff had come down. But now all of a sudden we're getting it again,
Mm-hmm.
and we find out it's because this undine, this lurlie, is now on her own surviving, and this is how she's doing it. She's sort of making these trade with these villagers, and of course, the villagers don't want to work in the buckwheat. I guess buckwheat is is marshy, is like harvested marsh, I guess, because they don't want to go out there where the buckwheat is because they'll die. The lurley will kill them. So the crop's going to go, but the buckwheat is how they get their vodka, and they will have their vodka. If they can't make it, they will buy it. But then, well, I love how he says this is like, but then they go and buy a pint at the local, in the city or something, but then they have to share the pint because everybody wants you to share your, and then there's the first fight. And after the first fight comes the second fight. And I was just like we couldn't possibly be responsible for ourselves and control our drinking habits. Like, listen, we're gonna have our vodka, okay? It's gonna happen. Like the undine is forcing us to go out here and get in drunken battles in the city if we can't get it ourselves.
We don't want to be rude. I mean, if the whole bar
Right.
wants to drink your vodka, you know.
We didn't have an option. We didn't have a way not to choose violence.
Yeah, you look at my reality that just happened. I mean, there wasn't an option.
I just like how all that stuff gets pulled together. It's so great.
It's very interesting too. And I feel like Avram is not, I wouldn't say, he kind of takes the tablecloth out sometimes, you know, and everything is still standing, because at least there's a twist that I didn't see coming at all. So Prince Roldrando is going around talking about why his castle is so great, what he thinks about the homunculus, and, you know, that the undine was probably created from the alchemist. But eventually, I think, Virgil, help me with this, but I think, a major spoiler, Prince Roldrando is the father of the undine, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. It's very subtly hinted at, but yes, and the reason we know this is because, or part of the reason we have this, not just by association, is because he says that he is a descendant of Charlemagne.
Right.
And there's a mention at the very end about how Charlemagne was descended from the, I think I wrote this down.
I've got it for you if you
go for it if you got it. I wrote it down, but I can't read what I wrote.
So it says, so I'll get to the queen in just a second, but there's this long string of descendants, and he says, oh yes, after all, it is in the blood. She is descended from King Baldwin and his undine wife on one line, and on the other we are out of the body of Charlemagne himself, the great grandson of the web-footed queen.
That's it, the web-footed queen. That's right. And I loved how we've got, and I don't even know if that's true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough about Charlemagne to say like, oh, the web-footed queen, but I like that it's like there's maybe this tiniest little mention in some obscure book somewhere of the web-footed queen that Charlemagne is descended from, and that's pulled into this, and it's a way for the prince to almost feel like proud of the fact, like, oh, that's like, oh, she's got the family nose. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like she's got the family webbed body. You know, it's like, oh, it is one of mine. You know. I like that it's like this like little bit of this little tidbit in history, not even even smaller than an anecdote almost, and it's pulled in, and that's kind of like one of the connecting links.
It kind of reminds me of like stained glass almost. It's like there's all of these layers of stained glass, different colors coming together to make one portrait.
Mm.
sometimes. I was wondering too with this undine. I wanted to see what you thought about this because, as we've said, like an undine needs to, according to the legend, get married in order to get a soul. So I think that is Hans Christian Andersen was inspired by the story of the undine and used it for the Little Mermaid because she has to uh, start a relationship to get legs. Of course, loses her voice. But here, the undine has to get married to get a human soul, and after marriage, upon death, the soul goes up into heaven. But I was wondering about what do you think of this idea of like the supernatural? Since this is for Occult Detective Week, this is where I'm trying to go
Yes.
for a supernatural folk tale or myth or whatever you would call this kind of lore. This informing kind of the human side of this story. Do you feel like when even Dr. Eszterhazy is not really doing anything necessarily occult, but is solving this occult mystery, how does that feel as a story for occult detective fiction?
Yeah, and it's interesting because you said at the beginning that he does a lot of his detective work by listening, and
Hmm.
he does. I think there's even a mention that a more sharp-minded or driven detective may ask like a very terse question or something, but that Dr. Esterhazy decides to listen instead, and that's
Hmm.
how he gets all these little elements. And at the very end of the story, he sort of says, "Well," he's asking, he's like, "Oh, do we have somebody who can make like an apothecary or somebody who can make potions or something?" And they're like, "Oh, the midwife," and that's how he goes to her and he just says, "Hey, where?" And then you're kind of like, well, "What is going? Why does he need like he needs some sort of a solve or something? Like, did he get a sunburn?" You're not really sure. Um, and then he's like, he sort of says, "Well, this is what's happening," and you're kind of like, "Huh?" And it is very much like a big reveal, and it's hard to know. I don't know if it's like a direct like if you as the reader could have predicted that per se,
Hmm.
but I think um but it does feel like he had done all this listening and he had it seems like he was very sleepy the whole time. Like he was just sort of like, okay. And like not much going on. But the whole time he's like putting these things together and he's like, okay. By the way, you've got somebody in your area who's like this and this and this and this, and you're the midwife. So the only way this could happen is you would probably know something about this. And she's like, yes, I do actually. So I think it fits well. I think this is good. And you know what I kind of like too is that there's never a moment in this story where it's completely refuted that it's supernatural. Like it could still there's still like a hint that like we don't really know. Like is this just
Hmm.
sort of um like a birth defect or something that's going on, or is it something semi supernatural? Is there some truth to this? It's never like completely cast off, but it's not confirmed either. Earlier I kind of hemmed and hawed about what to say, and I think this might fall under a little bit under although it's not really much in the other part of the word, like a weird menace story, which is
Hmm.
sort of where a supernatural story where the supernatural element at the end is revealed to just be humans.
Hmm.
Nick from Book Graveyard sometimes says it's like the Scooby-Doo mystery. Like at the end they pull the
Oh.
mask off and it's only old Mr. Higgins or whatever, you know? It's like that. It's like it's like there is no ghost. So it has a bit of that. Usually the menace side of this is obviously pretty low, although there's a suggestion of menace.
Hmm.
But it's all just superstition, right? Just people were just nervous.
Superstition, I think, is a good way to put it because whether or not the detective is doing something occult or doing something psychic or doing something predictive, they Dr. Esterhazy at least believes. He's like a spooky Mulder. He wants to
Mhm.
believe, or at least he's willing to believe, and he's gonna not discount things. So when he clicks, he's like, "Oh, midwife might know something about this." But you're right, there are still even different accounts, so it still is held in this weird, again, liminal space, kind of like the
Mhm.
undine. Is it an element? Is it a person? It's held in this limbo of knowing and not knowing because one person describes it like this: the flesh of the lower limbs was fused. In appearance, there was not but one lower limb. I told her, Helena, this may very probably be cured through surgery. But then there's another account where it says that she was formed in the manner of a seal, and in that manner she found her way with ever increasing confidence upon the river. and it describes what she ate and how she's growing up as kind of a sea creature, a fish creature.
Uh-huh.
So it is interesting. Like, people who have watched all of this happen still are not sure, okay, supernatural or natural.
Right. Yeah. Because I would think the normal, um, for some sort of birth defects it would not be, you would not really make you a better swimmer, right? Or make you a confident swimmer. I wouldn't think so. But it could be that she's like, has a little bit of that real undine in her, perhaps, like that there is something like that. It doesn't seem, it could be, like you said, could be cured with surgery, but then yet it still, she seems to reap a benefit from it. She still has like this ability to swim and to eat and to capture these mussels. And then she's got like this trade going on with this local village boy or something.
And she's undine on both sides too.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I like that element. I like that. I enjoyed that at the end. It wasn't like it was all just nothing. That it's a little hazy at the end. It's kind of obscured. We're not sure which side it fell on, and so we have that mystery is held. It kind of keeps it a little bit mythic. It's not completely revealed or even like a Sherlock Holmes story, like where it's like, oh, it's the Hound of the Baskervilles. It's like, well, okay, not really. Not really a ghost dog, right? It's like at the end, we're not really sure if the Undines were real or not.
I'll be a chew toy for the Hound of Baskervilles, as Carson Pace would say. I like how just at the end we get to decide, it's a mermaid. We've had all of this doubt, and then we get to see exactly that it has been supernatural the whole time. So it is, all of this stuff comes together, and it's a mermaid.
Right, boom. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I was very pleased with how the story panned out.
Like with a pearl.
With a pearl. Yeah, it's great. I'm interested to see what the other stories in this collection are like, because I think it's interesting to see how again, it felt like it was almost like this was another episode of that on history, but like instead of telling it in a nonfiction way, we sort of get this fictionalized version that he's put together for us. I thought that was cool.
I think it's very interesting. Virgil, I think we got to do more Dr. Eszterhazy, see if we can find more occult ones to further participate in Occult Detective Month. And yeah, some more on history. It's really interesting to see history now this is like its own folk legend, by itself, but participating in a long string of folk legends.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is really great, actually. So, it could exist within our world, or an alternate version of our world, or it could be fantasy. It's hard to say. I like that it's in a liminal zone itself.
It's a liminal zone. Christ from liminal spaces.
Christ from liminal spaces, great.
Sorry, Chris. Chris from liminal spaces.
I don't even know. I'm trying to think of how to turn that. I'm like, I don't even know what to say.
This is typing too much, and then T.
T, like, oh, go with it. I'll roll with it.
All right, Virgil. Well, until next time, let's pick another Dr. Eszterhazy or pick something soon, and then we'll be back. This is the time we really need to do a water metaphor, Virgil.
Oh, shoot.
Dive in,
dive deep.
Release the torpedo, dive deep. There you go.
We're deep diving, deep dove.
We're deep diving, and I'm going to go diving for pearls here soon.
That's right.
Go wash the dishes. Yeah, pearls of wisdom. I was going to wash the dirty dishes. But until next time, Virgil.
Until next time, Bob. It was good to see you again.
You too.
Bye.